Today we're going to take a look at two plays in the last installment of our ace pair flex scheme out of the Pittsburgh Steelers and pass balance playbook, or if you like to use a custom playbook, the formation to look for is twin tight end chief. I personally use a custom and have done so all year long. The first play is called clown cross. There's two setups for this play, and the first is the most often used by far, which is blocking the halfback, putting B on a drag, and A on a flat route. For the second setup, the only change that we're going to make from the first is by putting A on a streak. The first route we're going to look at is yet another over-effective route in this formation. It's a corner post, which in this version goes from a C route to a post route. This is something I showed in last year's scheme as well, and it works the same way. Against man coverage, we'll want to throw the ball just as he's about to make his first cut to the left, and by doing that, the defender's not going to react, and it's an easy completion. Now, unlike last year, sometimes the defender will bite underneath and make it look like a tougher throw with the defender playing in front of the wide receiver. But if your timing is right, it should not matter. So just stay confident. If you read man defense and there's no additional zone, just throw the ball like always. Now again, zone, all we do is wait for him to cut to the middle on the post route, and that's going to be an easy completion. Now, I love this route because it just seems like it's always open. The only time I avoid it is if there's a user defender clearly in that area and I know that he's got pretty good stick. Even then, you're going to see a couple times in the gameplay footage here that user defenders trying to cover that receiver are going to bite too far to the left. So when he cuts back to the right, we have a step on him and he's going to be able to make a catch. This is going to go along with all the other routes that we're throwing at him. Once he sees that he makes his cut to the left, they might think that we're running a corner route, and then that's when we jump on it by throwing it to the middle of the field. You're also going to notice that I do drop back quite far. It's a habit of mine, but it's a habit of mine when I have great confidence in a route becoming open. I could easily hit underneath dual drags all the time or other routes that are wide open, but anytime I know that the X receiver is going to be open over the middle, I'll just drop back and wait because it's a bigger chunk of yards than we can get on a drag or a flat route. Now, speaking of other routes, you're going to notice that I have a lot of different route combinations for other receivers, and this is just because, I had tested this with a lot of different ideas. I still highly recommend the two setups that I showed at the beginning of this video. They do work the best. This over-effective route beats man and zone almost every time, and even though I like to throw it early against man coverage and later against zone, we can still get open no problem against man coverage if we wait like we do against zone. I just have a preference to throw it early because it has the ability to go for more yardage after we catch the ball. Because the X receiver is going to beat almost any coverage as he cuts towards the middle, this is going to allow me to read the flat corner combination on the right side of the field first. The only time I'll read X first is if I have a strong feeling that it's going to be man coverage, so I could take advantage of the early throw I just talked about. Now this tight end corner route does a great job beating man and zone, especially zone with the other tight end on a flat route pulling down defenders. There's a lot of tight end corner routes in the game, but they're not all that effective. This particular one I do actually like quite a bit. Something I also love to use in the red zone as well because of the high usage of flat zones that people like to use in this area of the field, whether it be cover 2 or cover 3. Now my only suggestion is to stay patient. Even if you recognize a flat defender pulling down, wait until the tight end corner has enough space or else that flat defender can jump the route. And the same goes for man coverage. Let them separate and then throw it. We're in no hurry because we have the X route over the middle, which takes time to develop. When reading the corner flat combination, I personally focus on the flat route first. It's what happens with him that will determine what I'm going to do. Flat routes make it easy to tell if your opponent is in man or zone coverage by the way the defender reacts. If the flat is open, then it's an easy throw to pick up some yards. Now this could be because it's zone coverage or because they're blitzing. Or if the flat is covered and there's no user defender lurking, then I like my chances with the corner route. If both are tightly covered for whatever reason, then of course I got the old dependable X receiver on the clown or corner post over the middle. I just want to stress how great the X route is, and that's the reason why I'm even covering this play to begin with. I really like it, but this play definitely does have some other options that we can go to as well. And finally for this play, the B receiver on a drag is not only great because drags beat any coverage and are great as a last resort bailout option, but Also because in this particular scheme, we have focused on this receiver a lot. This is our best receiver, doing many different things throughout this scheme. And the more success that we have with that, the more they're going to focus on this player. A drag playing down low, running this route so quickly, is a great way to get our best receiver the ball and avoid a user defender that's going to be expecting something else. This is the only time that this receiver will ever be put on a drag in this scheme, and we can throw quick passes to that receiver, or we can just throw underneath a user defender or underneath coverage and pick up some easy yards. The second play we're going to look at is a play called Smash Drive, and the only setup that we're going to use is by putting A on a drag and RB on a smart routed in route. My first read on this play is always going to be the B receiver, and I like it mostly against man coverage. After he cuts it towards the sideline, I like to pass lead to the outside, unlike last year when I ran this play the same way, but just through a bullet pass. If you do that this year on this route, it's going to get intercepted a decent amount, so just make sure that you pass lead to the outside. If by chance the defender is still playing really tight and I make a bad read by throwing into coverage, I like to click on and pull down the left analog stick to get in front of the defender and catch the ball. Again, zone, I just look for open space and for the outside defender to see if he's going to pull down on a flat zone. If so, then I'm going to throw the ball to B. If he doesn't pull down, then I'll throw to X like you're about to see in a second. Now this play is really nothing fancy, but I just like the additional route combinations to throw something different at our opponent, even if they are simple routes. Like the PA Power O where we have X on a flat and then B cuts over the middle. I like having X on the dig flat and then the B receiver cutting to the sideline instead of over the middle. It's not really that big of a deal really, but it does help when your opponent is doing everything they can to make sure all areas are covered in a max coverage defense. Plus, I like the dig flat because it's further upfield than the flat route, so if we get tackled right after the catch, then we've gained yards. Also, if they're having a user defender and they think that B route is going to cut towards the middle of the field and it goes to the sideline, that gives us an opportunity to be able to throw to a wide open receiver as well. The other thing I like about X being on the dig flat route is for when we throw to A on the drag, because it plays upfield a couple yards and then sits down. And once he sits down and we throw to the drag, he then becomes a blocker. It's not something that's going to spring us free for a touchdown, but it is going to give us at least 2 to 4 extra yards per play. I also just love the drag being open if both X and B are covered. Our X receiver is going to occupy any flat defender, allowing A to run free. You know, drags are essential to any scheme. It's very, very rare that a user defender is going to play down low enough to stop a drag, especially when we do have other great routes that they have to worry about. Now also guys, check the description for a link for a great 2-point play shown to us by TGL forum member 2 Schemes. I didn't have the time to test it out, but it does look really nice, so do him a favor and subscribe to his channel. And finally, for the first and only time in this scheme, I like to take advantage of one of the better routes in the game. With everyone clearly loving smart routed out routes, and for good reason, I love a smart routed in route as well. In routes, you know, they do good against man and zone coverage, but I personally love it most against zone, which is what you're going to see in these clips. And of course, you know, we're going to love any route that gets open, but to me, this is even more than that. I love smart routed in routes because it allows me to make reads 1, 2, and 3, and then if nothing is there, I can look at the route as it comes across the middle, and it's even a great route to hit if we start rolling out, you know, because the play is broken down. Now, unlike the smart routed out route where you have to throw it as soon as the receiver makes his cut, and if you don't, then the route is going to be useless, the in route can run all the way across the field and always be an option to throw for pretty much the entire play. Just keep in mind that with this route, you don't need to wait until he's open. As defenders are flat-footed in zone coverage, you can throw it with a defender right there, and by the time the ball gets to the tight end, he's run through the zone and is open.